All right, so as I said, we're going to go over some deadlines here just to talk about various things that we need to think about as we're coming to the end of the semester. The first is 12/1. That is Wednesday of this week. 12/1 is a day to check grades, okay? I'd like you to check your grades on December 1st. I will spend today and tonight and tomorrow night if necessary, making sure that by Wednesday morning, all of my grade books are up to date so that everyone has an accurate sense of their grade on December 1st. So it's a day to check your grade in the grade book. And that's because of our second date, which is 12/2. Which is a Thursday of this week, and 12/2 is the withdrawal deadline for this class. And if on 12/1 your grade is a D or higher, my recommendation is that you stay in the class and continue working to improve your grade. Someone who has a D can revise work or turn in late work and easily bring their grade to a C, and I would like to see them do that. However, my recommendation, if you have an F in the course on December 1st, my official recommendation is that at that point you would want to consider a withdrawal to protect your grade, because bringing your grade up one grade level in a week or two, or week and a half, is possible. It absolutely is, with some hard work. However, bringing your grade up in some cases from a 17% or a 20% to a 79% in a week and a half, or a 69.5% in a week and a half is unlikely. So if you are significantly behind on the first, it is at that point that my recommendation is to withdraw. Now, my recommendation is not a requirement. If you decide you'd like to stay in and still try to turn in all of the work, I will grade everything you turn in right to the bitter end. But I am asking you to understand that I am not guaranteeing that any of the work that you'll turn in will pass, and you won't have the opportunity to revise it because we are running out of semester. So that's my recommendation. That's my recommendation to anyone. If you have a D or higher, you should absolutely stay in the class and work to revise and improve and pass this class, and I'll help you. If you, however, still have an F on the first, my official recommendation at that point would be that you should withdraw, and the withdrawal deadline is on the 2nd. Okay, our next date to talk about is 12/6, which will be our last class that's a regular class before exams begin. Okay, so that's Monday, December 6th. Will be the last time that we meet here in B11 without taking an exam in B11. Okay, exams begin on the 8th, okay? And our exam in this class is on the 8th, and that's our next date. So our exam is on December 8th from 11 to 1 o'clock p.m. And please make a note, this is one that absolutely has to go in your calendar with a reminder, so make sure you're getting out your phone and putting it in your calendar, because it doesn't start at 11:30 when our class usually starts. Our exam on the 11th starts at, on the 8th. Our exam on the 8th, December 8th, that's a Wednesday, starts at 11 o'clock and goes until 1 o'clock, okay? From 11 to 1 on the 8th of December, okay? Students will need to be present in the classroom on that day. I will not proctor anyone by Zoom. Yes, sir, Logan? 11 o'clock. Yes, sir. Students will need to be in the classroom with a laptop that has a charge. Okay, so make sure your laptops are charged before you get here. And that's simply because hold on one second. This one needs an immediate answer. I'll be right with you. So tell me what time our exam is. On what day? On the 8th, correct. All right, so it's on December 8th from 11 to 1. Where is it? In B11. B11. Okay, and I'm going to remind everybody that if you're joining me on Zoom, I do expect students to share their video and to reply when called upon. Excellent, thank you. All right, so a reminder again, December 1st is a day to check your grades. Grades will be up to date for all students, including any late work turned in over the Thanksgiving break. On December 2nd, that is the withdrawal deadline for any student who has below a D, an F in the course on December 2nd. December 6th is our last day of regular classes. Our exam for this class is on December 8th from 11 to 1 o'clock, and all students are required to take that exam in the classroom. If you do not have a laptop to use in the classroom, please let me know by email or in the chat while we're here so that I can help you identify where to get one for use during the exam. So questions about dates going until the 8th of December. Any other questions about that? Yes, ma'am. That's a smart question. Let's take a look at the Lawson website. I'm going to share my screen and show you how to find that exam schedule. We went over this, I think, in class last time, but it bears repeating. All right, so you go to the Lawson website and you just go to the search and type in exam schedule, which you can see I've done before. And you search for that exam schedule, and this is how you figure out when all of your exams are for your various classes. It's a good chance for us to check ours and make sure I have ours correct. So you just find that on the website. You find your classes day. This is for Monday, Wednesday classes. Down below is for Tuesday, Thursday classes, and then they have Friday only classes and that sort of thing there as well. And this is there to assure that that your classes' final exams don't conflict with each other. So if you do have an instructor who's not following the final exam schedule and trying to put their exam on a different day and it creates a conflict for you, please simply ask them to take the exam during your scheduled exam time. And if they say no, contact an administrator, because we're all supposed to be adhering to this schedule so we don't cause conflicts for our students. Okay? Other questions about dates going through the 8th of December? All right, the last day to turn in work of any kind for this semester is December 13th. So all late work, revisions of any kind need to be in on the 13th. The 8th is the last time we meet. It's the last time we meet, and it is in person here in B11. Okay? If you are unable to meet in the classroom B11 for the exam, you'll need to speak with me about signing up and having proctor you for the exam. And that may involve a fee. But that's how we'll proctor you, that's how you'll be proctored. So if you can't be here in the classroom for me to proctor you, you can sign up and pay proctor you to proctor you. Does that make sense? Okay, I think most of you would rather have me do it for free than to pay proctor you. But if you need to pay proctor you to do it, then that's fine. Other questions? Not on December 13th, before December 13th. That December 13th is when I start grading it. And if it's not in there by the 13th, I'm not taking it. Okay. And that hard deadline comes from how long I need to be able to grade 5 classes worth of materials and be able to turn my grades in by my deadline, right? So that's just a hard and fast deadline. All right, so 12/13 is the absolute last day. But remember, my recommendation is that if you do not have a D or higher on December 1st, I'm recommending a withdrawal. Now, with that said, I will grade anything anybody turns in, but I do not want to give you the false impression that I think you can bring an F to a C in 2 weeks' time. I don't think that's realistic. But if you want to try, then that's your choice. But I want to make sure you understand the risks that you're taking if you choose to try that. All right, questions about dates going from now until the 13th? Excellent. Let's take a look at what we need to do before then. I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to get us to Blackboard. And I'm going to start with this week, and then I'm going to preview your exam spaces for you because we do have 2 exams in this class. I'll talk to you about that in a second. Okay, so let's talk about this week. Somebody tell me what's due this week. The final draft of the evaluative essay, that's correct. So let's talk about that evaluative essay for a few moments. What is the evaluative essay about? One of the 3 videos that were assigned to you to watch in week 13, how many videos do you have to review? 1. 1, right? You only have to write about 1 of them, right? So how is your essay structured if you're only writing about 1 of them? You're not writing about 3. I liked this one, and this one. We're not doing that for the essay structure. What's our essay structure? Five paragraphs, correct. What are your 3 body paragraphs? You know your thesis paragraph is your rating of it, right? But what are your 3 body paragraphs? Yes, they are your criteria that you use to judge the film. So let's say you liked the message and you liked the main character, but you didn't like the violence, right? Or it got weird at some point and that was confusing to you. So I want to make sure that you are seeing the resources that you have from week 13, because a lot of what we're doing is used in week 13. You have a sample evaluative essay to follow. You have the outlines, which were due last week, and then you have the 3 videos, right? So I will grade those outlines early in the week and make sure that you have feedback on those. And if something in your outline needs to change, you can change it before the final draft is due. All right. In week 14, make sure you watch this video that goes over week 13 real carefully. There's a link to transitional phrases, and those are for your topic sentences especially. There is a criterion link and a review video for using criterion effectively. If you're not sure how to get to that split screen where you can see your errors on this side of the screen and make the changes on the other side of the screen in criterion, please make sure you watch that video on using criterion effectively. Again, I want to remind you that you don't need a score from criterion. Well-developed essays of 1,000 words or more will not earn a score through criterion because it can only score something under 1,000 words. Don't shorten your essay to get a score. That's not a good plan. We like well-developed essays. What I do when somebody doesn't have a score is I assume it's because it's too long, and I go in and I take a look. And I see that they've either taken care of the errors in there or they haven't, right? So you are using multiple submissions, not just one submission, but multiple submissions to get rid of real errors in grammar, usage, and mechanics. Now, the difference between a real error and not a real error is this. Let's say Tanaya used the pronoun, the proper noun Walmart in her essay, right? And Criterion thinks that's a spelling mistake, right? It's going to flag that as a spelling mistake all the way through, but I know how to spell Walmart. She knows how to spell Walmart. We're good. That's not a real error, right? The same is true for the title BAO, B-A-O. It's probably going to mark that as a spelling error, right? Make sure that you've spelled it B-A-O, not B-O-A. Don't let it change it for you. Make sure you're being smarter than Criterion. And don't let Criterion cause you to make an error simply because it doesn't know about the movie title of the film that we watched, right? So I go in and I look and I see, okay, no, this is just saying that bow is spelled is incorrect spelling, and that should not be corrected. But if I go in and I see that you have 26 mechanics errors and you're not capitalizing the first word in your sentences, those are real errors, right? If I look through and there's spelling errors all over the place that are real spelling errors, those are things that should have been fixed. Subject-verb agreement errors, fragments. And for the love, if it says you've left out a comma, put the comma in, right? So it's usually right about those things. So make sure that you are fixing those. All right, so make sure you're using Criterion effectively. I am going to go over this. This is the citation pattern for a film. I'll make it a little bigger so we can see it together. This is the only source that you are using for this essay, but we are using a source here. We're using a film to talk about, and whenever we talk about something at length in an essay, we need to have a works cited entry for it. Now, this one does not need to be a whole list, and I don't need it to be on a separate page. If it fits at the bottom of your last page, just put it there below the text. I've given you the pattern, which is last name, comma, first name, comma, director, period. The film title underlined and capitalized, period. The distributor, comma, the year, period. And then I've given you an example. Lucas, comma, George, comma, director. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, period. Distributed by 20th Century Fox in 1977. So make sure you're looking at that pattern and using the example. And then down below that, I give you all of the information. Now, I don't arrange it in the correct order. That's up to you. You've got to take Domi, she's name, and then put she last, and comma, Domi, right? And you've got to put bow in the correct place and Pixar in the correct place and the year in the correct place and all that stuff. So you need to take this information and rearrange it to fit the pattern. Yes? I'm seeing ceilings, I'm seeing tops of heads. Yes, we understand that we need this works cited entry. What do we need a works cited entry for, Amaya?
You say what we need a works cited entry for?
Yes, ma'am.
To make sure that the evidence is there.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Chanel, if you are writing about Pearl, who's the director?
I really don't know.
It says it on your screen. Look at the screen and tell me who the director of it is. Yes, ma'am. Correct. That's correct. All right. And Logan, who was the distributor for Big Buck Bunny?
A distributor?
Yes, sir.
Blender Institute, Amsterdam, and 2008.
Correct. All right. Good. So then you know how to put those into the format of the pattern above. How many works cited lists? How many works cited entries should you have in this list, Tanaya? One, that's right. How many sources should you use in this essay? Just one, right? Okay, so only one source here. Should you use a dictionary and look up words? And tell me what happy means and stuff like that using a dictionary definition. Chanel's shaking her head. That's correct. No. Should you look up what kind of prizes Pearl won and list them all?
No.
No, absolutely not. This essay is you watching a film and telling me exactly what you think of it by yourself. Absolutely no one should be looking up information about these videos. If you cannot watch a 10-minute animated film and tell me your opinion about it without looking things up to help you, you're not ready for 102. You're just not. Okay, so this needs to be independent. This is not a research essay. If you do decide to look things up like that, you will need to introduce your source, quote it directly, provide an in-text citation, analyze it, and then provide a works cited entry for it. How many of you would like to do those 5 steps? Tanai is shaking her head like, Lord, we just finished that. It was awful. I don't want to do it again. And she is correct. Don't do that. You don't have to, so you don't want to. Now, if you use a source, you have to do all 5 of those things, but I'm not requiring that of you here. So take the money and run, all right? Okay, I'm gonna close this up. That's in the citation pattern for a film. Remember, I don't give you anything unless I expect you to use it. So make sure that you are using that handout for that works cited entry. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open something way back in week 4 that I want you to use this week, and I want you to use on the 8th. What's happening on the 8th? Osagi, what's happening on the 8th of December? Your exit exam, that's right. And this handout right here is not only useful to you this week as you revise your essay, it's also going to be something where if you print it out, you can bring it to the exam and use it during the exam. So let's get this open. It's called the Essay Jobs Checklist. Do these look familiar to you? They should. Yes, these are the jobs of the different kinds of paragraphs. This reminds you what jobs your thesis paragraph, concluding paragraph, need to hit. It reminds you what the jobs of a topic sentence are, so that you're not just free-forming this and you're not free-forming it on your exit exam, right? You are reminding yourself of the jobs of the different kinds of paragraphs and writing intentionally and writing this college essay using this college essay formula, okay? So let's go over it and make sure we can translate it for this assignment because every assignment's a little different. In thesis paragraphs, the first job is to raise the subject naturally. What's the subject of this essay? The film you picked, right? So, and think about raising the subject naturally in this way. You walk into a room full of your friends who are not in this class, and you decide you want to talk to them about this film. How do you bring it up? Okay, I want you to really, because if you just walk in and say, Barrel is a terrible film, they're going to look at you and be like, what are you talking about? I mean, sure, we love you and we'll talk about it with you if you want, but that's a socially awkward way to bring it up, right? So genuinely imagine yourself walking in a room and say, hey, have you watched any short films on YouTube? Do you like watching Pixar stuff? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I got to tell you about this one my English teacher made me watch, right? And so a genuine natural introduction to it. Natural, but make sure you do use the title in there somewhere because there is a little bit of formality to it, yeah? Then it says you must get your reader's attention and set the scene. What do you suppose you would do in those sentences? Think about setting the scene. What would you do in this essay to set the scene and give us some background? Not yet. That's the third job. We are not yet talking about whether we liked it or not. We have to set the scene first. What do we do when we're telling somebody about a movie? The first thing you need to do here, the second job here, is to summarize what the movie's about. This short film is about a giant bunny who's being picked on by rodents, you know, some other rodents, and they're killing his friends, the butterflies. Give me a quick summary, 2 or 3 or 4 sentences telling me what the short film is about, right? You can't review something we don't know what it's about. Right? My husband will say, do you want to watch this movie? And I'm like, I don't know what it's about, right? When you're looking up a film, before you start reading the ratings of that film, you look to see what it's about, right? So in this case, the second job in that thesis paragraph is to give us a short summary of that film. Now, it doesn't need to be 10 sentences long all by itself. You can summarize a 10-minute film in a couple of sentences. But tell us what it's about. Then that third job, Osagi, what's the third job? Yes, tell us whether you like it or not. And that's your thesis statement, and that should include a rating of the film. All right, and then you must tell the reader how the essay will be organized by mentioning what reasons and examples will be. So that's where you say, I'm going to talk about the message, and then I'm going to talk about the violence, and then I'm going to talk about the quality of the animation, or whatever your 3 criteria are. And a couple of things to remember here. If you're trying to develop this paragraph to be 10 sentences or more, please don't squish all this into one sentence that lists those 3 things. Give each of those 3 things a nice, meaningful sentence by itself, where you say maybe not just that you're going to talk about the message, but what the message was that you liked. Right? I liked that the message was about, you know, how to respond to a bully by standing up for yourself. Or I liked the idea that the mother and the son had to let each other grow up, right? Whatever you think that is, make sure it's a whole sentence by itself for each thing. The other thing I want to remind you is to make sure your criteria, each paragraph, is different. You don't want to have one that says, I like the main character's personality, and then say, I like what the character said, right? That's all kind of the same thing. And if they're too close together, you're going to find yourself repeating yourself instead of adding something to the essay. And that's not going to do well on the section of the, the rubric for detail and development, right? It's going to, or organization, it's going to say that it's repetitive there. Okay, so make sure your reasons for liking it are nice, 3 different reasons for liking it or disliking it. And then get the reader ready for the first body paragraph. And that's where you say, okay, first let's dive into the quality of the animation, right? That body paragraph is there. Now it says to write a topic sentence that does these 3 things. Tell us exactly what the paragraph will be about. So if you're talking about the message, that topic sentence needs to have the word message in it. Use keywords from the prompt to show how this paragraph connects to the main point or thesis. So you should say, one of the things I liked about this was the message, right? So we've got to have that positive or negative item in there to show evaluation. And then a transitional phrase to show how this paragraph relates to the other. So one of the things, that's a transitional phrase. Another thing, the final thing, or the thing I hated most, right? And there is that link in week 14 to some transitional phrases that you can use if you're not sure what those are. Now this says tell a detailed story from your own experience. Now that was for the narrative essay. What are we going to use for the bulk of our body paragraphs here? Shannon, what are we going to use for the bulk of our evidence in our body paragraphs in this essay?
The movie?
Yeah, details from the movie, right? So if I'm saying that the animation in Big Buck Bunny bothered me, I'm going to choose that they were all cross-eyed, and then I'm going to choose the bunny's big double chin, and then I'm going to choose, I don't know, the dumb looks on the squirrels' faces that I didn't like. And I'm going to, or maybe let's say I like the message. I'm going to choose something from the beginning and the middle and the end of the film to talk about how the message grew and changed as it goes on. So that is going to be where the bulk of it is. Remember, your goal is to have 9 sentences in the middle. After your topic sentence, have at least 9 sentences of details. So if you aren't able to get 9 sentences of details for a particular thing, maybe that's not a great criteria. Maybe you should shift to a different criteria that you can talk more about. Then you've got to end those paragraphs by explaining how your story or how those details from the film prove that it was bad or good, right? So maybe somebody else maybe they liked that they were all cross-eyed because it made it funnier or something. But I would have to say that it was distracting to me and I couldn't focus on what they were doing because I was looking at their eyes the whole time, right? So explain how those details prove your overall point. Concluding paragraphs, again, have a set of jobs they have to do. We should explain how all our examples work together. How does your criteria go together to form your overall rating, right? Because of this and this, I gave it a decent score, but this brought the score down, right? Reflect on how well you've proved your initial thesis. That's kind of that repeat your thesis thing. Tell the reader what's at stake. Now, this one is important. Telling your reader why your review is important is a big deal here. And here I want you to think about yourself as somebody who's recommending this to a particular group. Are you recommending parents watch this with their children? Are you recommending use of this film in a youth group? Are you recommending the use of this in a HR seminar at a business, right? Who are you recommending it to? And if they watch it and they shouldn't, what's wrong with that, right? And if they don't watch it and they should, what are they missing out on, right? So make sure that you really think about that and give it some good thought. Don't skip it, or your concluding paragraph will be way too short, right? But go ahead and imagine your audience. Think about bow for a second. You say, look, you can show this to your 5-year-old. There's nothing inappropriate in it, but your 5-year-old's going to be really, really confused. This is something maybe to share with your mother instead of your child, and start a conversation with her. But if you show this to your kid, they're just going to be completely weirded out when she eats it, and it's going to go right over their heads. They're not going to understand it at all, right? So think about that audience. And then tell the reader what to do or think next, whether you want them to avoid it or run out and see it as quickly as possible. Or if you come across it, go ahead and watch it, but don't seek it out, whatever that advice is. Now, again, this is a cheat sheet you're allowed to bring to your exam. I will check it, make sure there's nothing else on it. But if you print this out, you can bring it to the exam so that you can also make sure that your exam essay follows this same model. Yes? Questions about this model? It is in week 4. It is called Print and Use Essay Jobs Checklist, if you didn't already print it earlier in the semester. So that was in week 4. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is preview. Chantel, you had your hand up a little while ago. Did I get to your question, or do you still have a question? Shantavia, are you there? All right, let's talk about our exams. We've talked about our deadlines, but let's talk about our exams. Week 15 is kind of a half week because the beginning of it is the 6th, and then the end of it is our exams. We have 2 exams in here, okay? The first one is the revised research essay final exam, and that is required of all students technically, but there is an exemption for students who earned an A on the research essay the first time. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to open this assignment on the 6th, and every student is going to have it in their grade book. Students who earned an A on it the first time, I will input an override grade there, and you'll see that grade appear in your grade book, and you will not need to revise it. So an A on that assignment is 180 or higher, okay? So if you earned 180 or higher on your research essay already, you will not be required to take any action on this, although it is still required. That just means you'll have 2 A's in the grade book instead of 1. All other students, whether you earned a B, a C, a D, or an F on that research essay, will use the feedback that you received in week 12 to revise the essay, using that feedback, taking that feedback, making the improvements, and then you will upload that improved and revised research essay here in the exam space. If you don't do it, you will get a 0 here, not the same grade you got on it previously. If you want the same grade you got on it previously, let's say Shannon got a C. I'm making this number up. I don't think it's true. But let's say Shannon got a C and she's really, really busy and she's happy with that C because it helps her maintain an overall B average and she's cool with it. She still has to upload that paper in this space, okay? Even if she doesn't change it, right? But she still has to upload it in that space. Okay, does that make sense? So you can, if you got a B, you can stick with it, but you got to upload it here. The only people who are exempt entirely are students who earned an A on it the first time. And 180 or higher. Now you'll know if you have to do it or not because you'll look in your grade book and you'll already have a grade for it if you don't have to do it. So as soon as I open it, I'm going to do the override grades for the students who already have an A. Okay, so you'll know. But if you earned, let's say 164, which is a great grade, that's a B, then you can choose whether to use that feedback to try to earn like 174 instead, or even 180. Right? Or you can upload it as it is if you're satisfied with what you got. But I am offering that opportunity, and everyone has to have a grade in that category. Questions about that? Okay, the final, where it says final exam, what day is that? That is December 8th. What time? 11 to 1. In what location? B11. Can you do that through Zoom? No. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Questions about the end of the semester? I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to stop the recording as well. Questions about this? At the end of the semester, in between the 13th and when grades are due from faculty, I am working in the gradebook every day, okay? You are welcome to email me if you think I haven't seen something of yours and you need me to look for it, like, hey, I turned this in late, I need you to look for it. But please remember that I'm working on it, and I'm working on it every day, and I'm working on it systematically. I do appreciate the reminders, though. I know some of my colleagues get annoyed by them, but I love it that my students care about their grades. And if you want to email me a reminder or check on something, that is absolutely welcome. I may simply write it down and make sure I check for it. I won't necessarily be able to change it right away because, as I said, I try to work as methodically as I can. But you will get a response that says, yes, ma'am, thank you for that reminder. I will check on that. Okay. Grades are earned, not given, right? So the grade that you have earned is something you created. It's not something I give you, right? It's something that you have earned. My part in it is to make sure that the number really reflects what you've earned, right? And to make sure that it really reflects the hard work you've done and that it really is representative of the best that you brought to class this semester. So at the end of every semester, I go in and I make sure of a few things. I make sure that every student who is attending regularly, whether on Zoom or in person, has a strong attendance grade. Now, if you disappeared for a month, your attendance grade, I'm not going to tinker with it. I'm going to leave it the way it is. But let's say Tanaya's attendance grade right now is a B because she was absent 3 measly times, right? I'm going to go in and I'm going to take those 3 and I'm going to mark them as exempt or excused instead of absent because Tanaya's been here. She is a constant presence in this classroom. And she's been doing all her work, and there was never a time she just disappeared and I started thinking, where'd Tanaya go, right? So I'm going to make sure that she has that 100% attendance to boost her grade. And I do that for every student in the class who has been attending regularly, whether it's on through Zoom or in the classroom. If you've been a regular presence in this class, I excuse whatever little absences might be bringing you from 100 to a B or something petty like that, okay? So that's one thing that I do. Another thing that I do is I go in and I look at anyone who's on the border of a grade. Like once I've graded everything Shannon has turned in, if Shannon ends up being in the 9s of any percentage, let's say she's at an 89.1, I'm supposed to round down to a B for that, but that seems like obnoxious, right? So anytime somebody is really close to a border, whether it's the border between an F and a D or a D and a C or a C and a B or a B and an A, if you're in the 9s, I look for little ways where I can ethically boost that. So let's say Shannon is at an 89.1 and she got an 82 on her first essay. If I can boost that 82 to an 84 or an 85, she still has a B on that essay, but it bumps her overall average to an A instead. I'm going to do that, right? I'm not going to change the grade on that essay from a B to an A. That's probably not even necessary, and it's definitely not ethical, right? But if I can change it by a couple of points within the grade, and then she sees that half a percentage point overall, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that for everybody who's at a 9 in their ones digit in that percentage, okay? So if you have a 69, I'm going through to find a way for you to have a 70, right? If you have a 79, I'm going through to find a way for you to have an 80, right? If you have an 89, I'm going through to find a way for you to have a 90. Does that make sense? I do that for every student. Now, if somebody is at a 78, for an overall grade, that's more tinkering than is ethical to bring you up 2 percentage points overall. That's not 1 or 2 little things. That's something bigger than that, right? A percentage point for an overall grade is an average of a ton of things. So if you're solidly in that grade, I'm not tinkering. But I tell you what, I got an 89.4 one time, and the guy gave me a B+, and I vowed I would never do that. Because that's rotten. So, and I don't do it for students I like. I do it for every student. I don't do it for my students who are close to an A. I do it for anybody on the border. So if you've gotten yourself to like a 69, 79, 89, I'm looking for that way to bump you up. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Grades are private, and I know that Blackboard doesn't let you see your number. So if you want to talk to me about the number, we can make a time to meet privately and discuss that, or you can send me an email giving me permission to email you that. You'd need to say, I give you permission to email my grade, my numerical grade to me, and then I will. But I do want you to make sure that you know that at the end of the semester, I am looking for ways to make sure their grades are fair, an accurate representation of the work that you've done, and really represent the best of what you've offered this semester, right? I want to make sure that you have a grade that you can be proud of, okay? All right,